There are no words to sufficiently describe the pain and the sorrow that are coming out of Boston this week, as well as the town in West Texas that experienced the massive explosion last night. When things like this occur, we get this feeling that this is something that's never happened and that it's some sort of isolated event. But we know better. We know that stuff like this happens all the time. I mean, all we have to do is turn on the news and see that these things are going on not only here in the United States, but all over the world. Natural disasters, people killing people, bombings, all sorts of things like that. It's literally everywhere you turn around. Not only that, historically, this week in April is one of the worst weeks ever. For instance, on this week in 1865, Abraham Lincoln was shot while he was enjoying a play at the Ford's Theater. In 1912, the great unsinkable ship, the Titanic, sank on its voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. Fast forward to more current history. In 1992, 81 people were killed in an explosion at the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. In 1994, Timothy McVeigh parks a truck full of explosives outside of an Oklahoma City federal building. He detonates the explosives and kills a host of innocent Americans. In 1999, two students walk into Columbine High School gunning down several of their classmates. In 2007, a man walks into the campus at Virginia Tech University and kills 32 people. Then we come to Monday, where two bombs were set off at the Boston Marathon, killing 3 and injuring several more. And then, of course, last night, where a fertilizer plant in West Texas explodes, killing, at last report, 60 to 70 people. So, as you see, historically, this is just a bad week. It still doesn't take away the pain that there were people that died this week because of tragedies. So here we are, left with the task of coping with these events around us and trying to understand how in the world can tragedies like this happen. Well, in the case of some of these shootings that have happened, the government's response is that we should regulate guns. And while in many cases it doesn't sound like a bad idea, the fact of the matter is it's not going to change anything. But some people will say, oh, if you don't regulate guns, then people will just be able to get guns. I don't mean to be political here, but if a person wants to shoot somebody, they're going to find a way to get a gun legally or illegally. If these government regulations against guns are going to stop people from shooting one another, then how do we regulate bombings? I mean, in most instances, these bombs are generally made out of homemade materials, things that you can buy anywhere. In the case of the Boston Marathon, those bombs were made out of pressure cookers. So do we regulate pressure cookers now? So while regulation seems like a good response, the fact of the matter is it's not. At very best, it may curtail people from carrying out these plots of mass destruction a little longer. But if these people are persistent, regulation isn't going to stop them. The base problem of these acts that have caused so much death and terror in our country, with the exception of the Titanic running into an iceberg and a fertilizer plant catching on fire and exploding, is evil. That's right. It's pretty plain and simple. There is evil in this world, and you can't regulate evil. Historically, evil has been all over the place. You can look throughout history and see people doing things that are evil. It's like Alfred said to Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight. There are just some people who want to see the world burn. Can't argue with that. Evil permeates just about every level of our society and our world. And it's something that we have to learn how to cope with. And that's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. The psalmist in Psalm 23, though, says this: "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." The psalmist who writes the very familiar Psalm 23 understands that evil is in this world. And for him to be able to cope with evil every day and deal with the circumstances around him all the time, he was going to have to stay close to his Creator. Like a sheep has to stay very close to its shepherd, so we have to stay close to God. It doesn't mean that evil will never happen. In fact, if anything, the Bible promises that evil will happen. The Bible promises us that there will be natural disasters. This world, in essence, will deteriorate on every possible level. That is why we place our hope and our faith in Jesus Christ, because His protection transcends the evils of this world. It goes beyond what we see here, and it stretches into the depths of eternity. Pray for those in Boston that have experienced tragedy and death this week. Pray for those in West Texas who have experienced the loss of loved ones and loss of property. And pray that God would protect you from the evil of this world. And pray as Christ did when He taught His disciples how to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be Thy name. Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For Thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.